All right, guys. So as most of you know, Christmas is my absolute favorite time of year. I start looking forward to Christmas in like June. I will start listening to Christmas music in August. I will start watching Christmas movies in October. And for me, it's a matter of just getting past Halloween so I can get to November 1st and start putting up my decorations. That is how much I love Christmas. And I love the Nativity story. I love the Christmas story. I love Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And that all means so much to me. But you know what I love even more? People who don't believe in God and spend the rest of the year routinely mocking Jesus and those who believe in him, telling us what the Nativity is really about and manipulating that story to push their woke liberal agenda. So we're going to look at a few of these interesting interpretations of the Christmas stories, and we're going to respond to them. But before we get too much further, I'm Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you so much for being here. Please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for doing both of those things. So let's get right into this. There are a lot of these woke interpretations of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus and what their story represents. So you guys let me know what you think. This first one comes out of Chicago, I believe it is. And there was a pastor who put up this nativity set and said ICE was here because the idea is that Mary, Joseph, and Jesus were immigrants. They were refugees. And if he was born today, ICE would attack them. They would zip tie Jesus and remove him from Mary and Joseph's care. So let's have a look at what that looks like.
Unique nativity display featuring Roman centurions dressed as ICE agents and Mary wearing a gas mask is attracting attention.
Jesus was born into a context into the Roman Empire, right? I mean, people under subjugation, and he immediately has to go into exile and flee and become a refugee in Egypt.
The display puts Mary and Jesus in modern times, with the Christ child wearing zip ties on its plaster hands.
Our baby Jesus has zip ties on his hands because that's an actual incident that happened in our city. These are real world things that are happening, and we're trying to depict them and bring the sacred into it.
Now, of course, to nobody's shock and surprise, this pastor has a pride flag in the background, so something tells me he likes to put his own spin on most Bible stories and messages. But let's be clear. Mary and Joseph did not cross any borders. They did not flee their country and enter another country illegally. Everything was under Roman rule at that time. So it'd be like moving between states in the US. Same federal authority with local governments kind of running these separate areas. So if he were born today, he wouldn't be born in another country and coming here and breaking our laws. Probably be born in a state that was more pro-late term abortion and have to move somewhere that was a little bit more pro-life. So let's move on to a couple of white liberal women as they have become the most hostile to Jesus Christ and what he stood for and what people who follow him believe. Explain to us how we're not living up to what the Christmas story is really about.
Year where evangelicals celebrate the birth of a Middle Eastern immigrant baby who they wouldn't have fed, they would have separated from his parents, and they definitely would have told Mary that she should have kept her legs closed if she was not married. Merry Christmas! You know how the good guy in the nativity story is the innkeeper who provided shelter to Mary and Joseph so she could have baby Jesus in a manger? I think that a way to celebrate Jesus would be for us to provide housing to immigrants and homeless people this holiday season.
I completely agree that we should be taking care of people that are in need. And statistically, people that are Christian and live by their religion have a significantly higher record of donating to charities, of taking care of people and serving their communities than people probably like this. Mind you, if you're going to lecture other people about taking care of the homeless and taking care of immigrants, what are you doing to provide for the homeless? Because you know what provides a great example to others of how they should live is doing it yourself. So don't lecture people that are probably doing far more than you are about what they should be doing if you're not doing it yourself.
Oh, hey, this is a reminder that next month Christians will be celebrating the life of a little brown baby born in the Middle East to a single mother who was 12 and had been impregnated against her will magically, and then was forced to be escorted around by an older man, schmedophile, named Joseph. And they walked and walked and walked, like in the desert with camels, like not finding anywhere to stay. And then finally she labored in a barn. the one that we glorify with the little nativity scene, the creche. Like in actuality, if this story were real, she definitely would not have survived that. But even today, now with modern technology, you MAGA Christians wouldn't give her what she needs to survive that, because her life didn't matter at all. It was all about the little brown baby who grew up to be a man who believed in socialism.
Well, first of all, yes, we know that Mary was very young. Do I think she was 12? No. We don't know exactly how old she was, but my guess would probably have been 15 or 16-ish. You can call Joseph all the names that you want, but let's remember that back then, women getting married very young and having babies very young was normal. This was not like exclusive to Mary. This was like the standard at the time. But you probably didn't know that because that doesn't fit your narrative. Speaking of not fitting your narrative, I know that you like to think that Mary was forced into this and that she was absolutely miserable by having to do something that she did not plan for. But this is actually the story of a mother who put the well-being and the needs of her baby and the life of her baby and the meaning of her baby before her own needs. So much so that she's like, I will give birth in a barn if that means that my baby will live and I get to take care of him. And the whole socialism thing, no, Jesus was not in favor of forcing people to give the things that they had. He wanted us to follow him so that he could bless our lives, and then taught us that to live righteously would be to voluntarily help those with the things that we are blessed with. He was never about forcing people to do anything. Now, to kind of respond to all of this nonsense, because I've seen it a lot, I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm just going to play a TikTok that I posted on my account this morning to kind of respond to everything and to give you my analysis of what would really happen if Jesus were born today based on modern ideology and modern laws. Who would really protect him and his family? Woke pastors are using the nativity story from the Bible, saying that if Jesus were born today, he'd be zip-tied by ICE and separated from his parents. Obviously, that's insane for a lot of reasons. Because they weren't immigrants, they didn't break any laws, they didn't demand free stuff from anybody once they got there, and they didn't talk about how awful Bethlehem was, even though all they offered them was a manger. If we were to apply modern laws and beliefs to Mary and Joseph's story, it would have nothing to do with immigration, or ICE, or being a refugee. And it would have everything to do with being pro-life, pro-family, and protecting parental rights. First of all, in Mary's situation, feminists would have told her this is obviously a forced pregnancy, and she'd be better off to hit up Planned Parenthood and let them take care of it. If she decided to keep the baby, they would tell her she could do it alone because she's a strong, independent woman that doesn't need no man. But since Mary and Joseph were pro-family, and where they lived were very much pro-late-term abortion and wanted to dictate to them what they could and could not do with their child, think California and Oregon. They would probably opt to move someplace like Texas or Oklahoma, where they actually believe that babies have the right to live and respect their rights as parents. Not to mention, I find it absolutely wild that the people using Mary, Joseph, and Jesus to push their liberal narrative, and even using their story to excuse crime, which is wild because God is a God of laws, they're the same ones that spend all day, every day, mocking and targeting people who do believe in God and spew absolute hatred at the idea that America was founded on the very values that Jesus taught. Like being pro-life, pro-family, pro-God, pro-accountability, living by the 10 Commandments. They're trying to remove God from society, take him off historical monuments, and even remove him from the Pledge of Allegiance. The people using Jesus to say that he would be threatened by what conservatives stand for are the same ones that say that conservative Christians are the greatest threat to society. Jesus was also a Jew, so the liberals would be showing up to his manger in burqas, chanting from the river to the sea. Yeah, if we're gonna play the game of what if Jesus was born today, who would protect him and his family? I think the answer's pretty obvious. So I thought I would basically just share that instead of just saying the same thing twice. Like I said, I normally wouldn't share my own TikTok video, but I already posted a lot of my thoughts on this morning. So sometimes it's about working smarter, not harder. But to basically confirm the idea that liberals basically want us to put God and Jesus Christ on the back burner and not be so prominent with these beliefs because they might be offensive to people that don't share them, for making it absolutely ridiculous that they would pretend to be the ones that would defend him and his family today. This is a video from a liberal TikToker named Josh Green. He usually has the most insane takes about pretty much everything, but he confirms my suspicions on this.
The only king of America is Jesus Christ and the kingdom of Christ. No, wait a minute. That's what a bunch of MAGA incels are saying on social media. And look, Jesus Christ might be the king of your life, but he is not the king of America. Get that through your thick, boneheaded skull. We have freedom of religion here. It's fine if Jesus Christ is your king, that's all good. But he's not my king, and he's not the king of America by any means, okay? No matter how hard MAGA tries to tell you that America is a Christian nation and that we have to return to our Christian values, we are not returning to shit.
So I just wanted to share those with you guys because it's obvious. It just confirms that the left uses Jesus as a political prop. He's trying to send a message to us that we're not living up to our Christianity, that we're not living up to what we believe, and that we're so evil that even if Jesus was born today, that we would totally reject him because we're heartless, we're cruel, and we don't really understand what he stood for. And you doing this by belittling Jesus Christ to nothing more than a political narrative and nothing more than talking points, which is why none of this should be ever taken seriously. And they just continue to make themselves look silly. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. As you guys know, we always end with Charlie Kirk. So keep it real, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
I would love to know your thoughts on Sabbath and how practically your family practices this and applies it.
As the wife, I have seen it transform him in a way that is so powerful that when he turns his phone off and it goes in that drawer, there is no distractions, and he finally gets to reset his brain. He finally gets to breathe. And as a wife, there is nothing more precious than my husband's sanity when it comes to the echo chamber and everything that he's dealing with in his world.
God rested after creation. That comes before the Hebrews, comes even before the creation of the modern world and civilization as we know it. And it says very, very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the seventh day you shall rest. If you are feeling overrun by society, you might be feeling depressed or anxious, turn your phone off for 1 day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the anger and the noise of this world. Go back to God's natural rhythm, and it's made our family much tighter knit. And I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges